The night before my wedding, I spoke with the version of myself from 5 years ago. When me from 5 years ago learned that I was about to marry Willow, he was full of longing for the future. I poured out to him all the grievances I had suffered over the years with Willow. The Willow who once loved me had long since changed her heart. Now, in front of others, she only called me a social climber who used schemes to marry upward. The expectation in the eyes of my past self collapsed, and he fell into silence. After a long time, he finally spoke. I won't love her anymore. The trajectory of our encounter was altered. 5 years later, I completely disappeared from her world. Later, she asked everyone, only to find that no one knew her husband George anymore. Chapter 1. Willow and I were about to exchange wedding rings when Makoto, dressed in a sharp white suit, walked in and interrupted the ceremony. Everyone's gaze shifted toward him, and the sound of whispers buzzed through the crowd. The delight in Willow's eyes was overflowing. She released my hand and quickly walked up to him as if he were her true groom. "Makoto, you're here." Her voice carried a gentleness I had never heard before. Just moments ago, Father Liu had glared at me with disdain. Now his face was lit with smiles as he patted Makoto's shoulder and said, "Makoto, you finally came back. Uncle just knew you couldn't bear to leave our Willow Liu." I stood there, even in my wedding attire, like a clown who had intruded on someone else's wedding. It was only then that Willow seemed to notice me. Her expression wavered, but after glancing at Makoto, she still spoke. "George, this is the debt you owed Makoto back then. Today, let him take your place in completing this ceremony. Think of it as your atonement." Atonement? Was my sin nothing more than loving her? I drew in a deep breath, pressing down the bitterness in my throat, and stepped toward her one step at a time. "Willow, are you sure you want to do this?" Makoto's brother raised his wine glass and came up to me, deliberately raising his voice so that the nearby tables could all hear clearly. "Well, if it isn't the scheming social climber. What's wrong? Trying to use your mother's illness to tie yourself to the Liu family again? Refusing to leave? If you hadn't used underhanded tricks and drugged Willow back then, today's wedding would have been Makoto's and Willow's. Who would ever give someone like you this place?" Shameful memories surged back like a tide. At a company gathering 5 years ago, I had been coaxed into drinking several glasses of alcohol. When I woke, I found myself half-dressed, lying in Willow's bed. Before I could react, the door was suddenly kicked open. Makoto rushed in with a group of people, and the scene was captured under countless flashes of light. His eyes were bloodshot as he pointed at me, cursing me as despicable and shameless, while Willow's gaze on me was full of fury and disgust. From that day on, labels like the driver's son, calculating social climber, and homewrecker were branded onto me. Later, my mother, struck down by the scandal, suffered a heart attack, and her condition worsened sharply. To calm public opinion and take responsibility, the Liu family reluctantly allowed Willow to agree to this marriage. The whispers among the guests grew louder and more unrestrained. "I told you. How could the Liu family ever want the son of a driver? What misfortune for their household. Look at the shabby air around him and his mother. Without such dirty tricks, he would never even touch the edge of high society in this lifetime." In the corner, my mother sat nervously, twisting her fingers. She was wearing an ill-fitting old dress she had borrowed from a neighbor. When she caught me looking at her, she lowered her head and whispered, "George, I'm sorry. It's because your mom isn't capable enough." My nose burned, and a surge of heat welled up behind my eyes. I would rather she scolded me than say this apology that cut my heart like a knife. For the rest of the wedding ceremony, Willow had arranged for me to sit among the guests below the stage. I watched as she held Makoto's hand, slid onto his finger the ring that should have been mine, and listened as she spoke eternal vows to him. In that moment, I felt like the biggest joke in the world. After the banquet ended, I returned alone to the empty wedding room, took out my phone, and dialed a number. The night wind chilled me to the bone. In a low voice, I asked, "So now, do you still think the future is worth looking forward to?" On the other end of the line was George from 5 years ago. One of us was still full of hope for the future. The other had already turned to ashes inside. But After all, there's been a misunderstanding. Maybe President Liu was just confused for a moment. He tried to console me weakly, his voice full of innocence. We've worked so hard to be together. Can't we hold on just a little longer? Right? Stories heard can never match even a fraction of the pain of living through them. 5 years ago, George still knew the Willow who would smile at me gently and speak up for me against those who looked down on me. Oh, right. He suddenly grew excited, his voice filled with expectation. You said I'd have a home with President Liu, didn't you? What's our home like now? Is it warm? His voice was like a soft knife, stabbing the deepest wound in me. I used every ounce of strength in my body to squeeze out a few icy words. Our mother was indirectly killed by Makoto. At Willow's birthday banquet, Makoto's younger brother, Kinto, came to humiliate me viciously. My mother tried to protect me, but was pushed to the ground, triggering severe heart complications. When she was sent to the hospital, a huge sum of money was urgently needed for surgery. When Willow arrived, she chose to believe Makoto's tearful pleas, scolding me for acting again just to get money. And so, the person who loved me most in this world left me forever while waiting for the surgery fee. Chapter 2. The next morning, when I came downstairs, Makoto was wearing Willow's bathrobe, sitting affectionately beside Father Liu at the breakfast table, looking every bit like the master of the house. On the table, Father Liu was tenderly fastening an expensive watch onto Makoto's wrist. Makoto, this watch is the token of the Liu family's eldest son. In my heart, you have always been the only one. Father Liu's voice overflowed with affection for Makoto. Makoto glanced at me, his eyes filled with undisguised pride. George is here. Come and have breakfast. I made it myself. Then he picked up a cup of warm soy milk, smiling brightly. Have some soy milk. Warm your stomach, it's good for your health. Everyone knew that since childhood, I had been severely allergic to soy products. Expressionless, I pushed the cup away. I can't drink it. The next second, his hand tilted and the entire cup of soy milk spilled across his white bathrobe, leaving an ugly stain. Ah, he exclaimed, jumping to his feet, his eyes instantly reddening. Just then, Willow entered from outside. The moment she saw this scene, her face darkened. She strode over, not sparing me a single glance, and went straight to shield Makoto behind her. Makoto tugged at her sleeve pitifully, his voice choked. Willow, don't blame George, it's not his fault. Maybe because Uncle gave me the heirloom watch, he felt upset. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken this cup of soy milk. George, Willow glared at me in fury. Are you really so petty? Do you have no tolerance at all? She took off her coat and draped it over Makoto's shoulders, her tone instantly softening. Don't be upset. I'll take you to change clothes. Today is the company's press conference. You'll attend it with me. She paused, then swept me with a cold look. As for you, stay home and learn some proper manners from Father. I don't want you embarrassing me in public in the future. I was left alone in the empty dining room like a criminal awaiting judgment, listening to their intimate laughter as they went upstairs. My heart sank little by little into the abyss. In the afternoon, I numbly turned on the TV. The financial channel was filled with news about the Liu Group. At the press conference, Willow stood side by side with Makoto. A handsome man and a beautiful woman, like a perfect couple. A bold headline scrolled across the screen. Liu Group's future president's husband makes his first public appearance. 5 years of longing finally rewarded. The accompanying picture was from yesterday's wedding, showing Willow with Makoto in his white suit. Meanwhile, I had been photographed sitting among the guests, my expression desolate. I was her legal husband, yet the one at her side in the ceremony was not me. Makoto's social media account immediately liked and reposted the news, and the comment section erupted. George's dream of marrying into the rich is shattered. Scheming social climbers deserve this ending. Our Makoto finally endured until the clouds parted, taking back everything that belonged to him. On the phone, George from 5 years ago was still trying in vain to defend her. They must be making it up. How could President Liu ever? How could she not? I cut him off with a bitter laugh. Let me show you what the President Lou you love is really like. I had him ask a mutual friend to open Willow's WeChat posts, the one she had blocked me from seeing. She hides them from me, posting sentimental words like, "If I could go back, I would never let go." Now do you see? Every single one of them is about Makoto. On the other end of the line, his breathing grew heavy, sinking into dead silence. But unwillingly, he said again, "But at a friend's party, a video was taken. I saw her get jealous because I interacted with another girl." That expression didn't look fake. I pulled up that video and had him watch. Look carefully. Her gaze went past you. She was watching behind you, at Makoto, who was pouring wine for a friend. And in that video, Willow had sulked the whole night because Makoto hadn't noticed her. She hadn't even noticed all the glances I cast at her. From the other end of the line came the sound of suppressed sobs. I took a deep breath and said slowly, word by word, "George, let's make a bet. If Willow once again makes me suffer humiliation for Makoto's sake, then you lose. If you lose, you must stay far away from her and never look back." That way, I would never again have any entanglement with Willow. Our lives were meant to be two parallel lines. Never meeting her. That would be the most perfect ending. Chapter 3. Late at night, Willow came home reeking of alcohol. I pushed the signed divorce papers across the table toward her. "Willow, let's get a divorce." Her bloodshot eyes locked on me. Then she let out a sneer, swatting the papers aside so they scattered across the floor. "George, what game of playing hard to get are you up to this time?" She bent down, pinching my chin, her alcoholic breath spilling across my face. "What's wrong? A few days as the legitimate Mr. Liu, and you've forgotten who you are? Your wings have hardened, and now you think you can negotiate with me? I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm giving you back to Makoto, so you two perfect lovers can finally be together." My voice trembled despite myself. "Don't want to." She let out a cold laugh, then suddenly stood up and kicked over the coffee table. The items on it clattered and shattered on the floor. She grabbed the photo frame from the table. Our only picture together, taken years ago to placate her parents, which she had been unwilling to shoot even then. "A scheming social climber like you who clawed his way up with dirty tricks. What right do you have to say you don't want?" Her voice was full of violent rage. "You think I don't know your mother's illness is a bottomless pit? Leave me, and you and your driver mother will be out on the streets begging for food." Before the words even faded, she hurled the frame at me. Instinctively, I raised my arm to block it. Glass shards instantly sliced my forearm, and blood surged out in a rush. She didn't even look at me. She only yanked at her tie impatiently, turned, slammed the door, and left me standing in the wreckage. Blood dripped onto the floor, but I felt no pain. I picked up the phone from the table, my voice calm. "You heard all that, didn't you? Still not ready to give up?" On the other end, the me from 5 years ago was sobbing with despair, still clutching the last straw. But she's always kept a very precious diary. She said it recorded the things most important to her. "You've been with her so long. There must be something about you in it. There has to be." He kept deceiving himself. Maybe she was just drunk today. She didn't mean to hurt you with those words. She must still care about you. I numbly walked to the study, took out the spare key from her locked drawer, and retrieved the diary she treated like a treasure. I opened it page by page, reading aloud to him. "Today at the library, I met Makoto. He wore a white shirt like a prince. Makoto's smile can melt the whole winter. If only I'd been braver back then, would the one by his side now be me? Makoto, I miss you so much." The entire diary was filled with her love and longing for Makoto. Not a single line about me. My 5 years of devotion and companionship weren't even worth a mention in her pages. "Have you given up yet?" I asked softly, as though speaking to him and to myself. On the other end of the line, there were no words, only the small broken sounds of despairing sobs. I looked at the ugly wound on my arm and softly declared to him, "George, you've lost." At that moment, something inside me completely died. According to local tradition, the 3rd day after marriage is the day of returning to one's parents' home. I begged Willow almost humbly to come with me to the hospital to see my still hospitalized mother, just to ease her worried heart. Perhaps out of a flicker of guilt from last night's violence, she frowned but agreed. A faint spark of hope ignited in me. Yet I waited the entire morning at the hospital entrance. From sunrise to the blazing noon sun, all I received was a text saying she couldn't make it because something had come up. I gave a self-mocking laugh. Once again, I'd been deluded. I walked into the inpatient building alone in disappointment, only to be met at the stairway by a scene that made my blood run cold. Makoto's younger brother Kento was barging into my mother's hospital room, his face twisted, shouting at my frail mother in the hospital bed, even reaching for her oxygen tube. "Stop!" I screamed, rushing forward, but it was too late. My mother's already fragile body was struck by overwhelming shock. The heart monitor blared its piercing alarm before flatlining into a straight line. Chapter 4. I trembled as I threw myself to the bedside, crying out for a doctor. The red light outside the emergency room lit up. The doctor told me my mother was in critical condition, in desperate need of a highly risky surgery, but the family had to pay a huge fee immediately. I called Willow like a madman, my voice hoarse. "Willow," Kento provoked my mom. "She's dying. She needs surgery right now. Please, I'm begging you, help us. Please, just cover the surgery fee first. I'm begging you." On the other end, Willow's voice was unnervingly calm, even tinged with impatience. "George, what trick are you playing now to gain sympathy? Makoto fainted from food poisoning and is in the hospital for tests. The money has to be kept for him. How could you curse your own mother just to get my attention? Or is this another ploy to frame Makoto's family?" "I'm not. Everything I said is true." I broke down, screaming into the phone. "Willow, why won't you believe me just once?" "Enough," she cut me off impatiently. "I've had it with you. I've already notified finance. Your mother's medical bills are cut off. My Liu family does not support useless deadweight." The call ended, and my world collapsed in that instant. My mother was already dead, just 1 minute before Willow ordered the bills stopped. Whether she stopped them or not, what difference did it make now? The police soon arrested Kento. Makoto knelt before me in tears, begging me, saying his brother was just momentarily confused, that he had just entered university and had a bright future, pleading with me to show mercy. And Willow slammed down a pre-drafted letter of forgiveness in front of me, commanding, "Sign it." I lifted my empty eyes to her. Perhaps she felt her actions were too harsh, for her tone softened, but her words cut even deeper. "George, you were also at fault back then. If you hadn't stirred up all that trouble, your mother wouldn't have been hated." I looked at her cold face, and for the last time weakly explained. "How many times must I say it? That night at the party, I really didn't drug you," but she turned a deaf ear, dismissing it as another lie. "Sign the letter, and everything in the past will be erased. We'll forget it all and live well together." Live well? What about my mother's life? Under Willow's pressure, I signed it. She left behind a promise to make it up to me later, then went to comfort Makoto. I handled my mother's funeral alone, then returned to the Liu house. At dawn, I leaned over Willow, watching her sleeping face. Beautiful, calm, without a trace of guilt, she slept so soundly. Peacefully, I whispered to her and to myself, "Willow, goodbye. We'll never meet again." I told the me from 5 years ago everything that had happened. I knew that in his heart, just like in mine, there was only deathly silence. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "I won't love her anymore. Tomorrow, I'll refuse the job offer. I'll delete all her contacts. The past had been rewritten. The future deserved to be remade too." Willow woke from a chaotic hangover, her head splitting with pain. She instinctively reached out to touch the space beside her, only to feel the cold sheets. She frowned, a wave of inexplicable irritation rising in her chest. That man, was he playing another game of running away from home? He was becoming more and more presumptuous. Willow went downstairs, only to find the entire house eerily quiet. All of George's belongings seemed to have vanished. She didn't think much of it and drove straight to the company, planning to deal with him later that evening. But all day, she felt restless. She stormed into human resources, demanding sharply, "Where's George?" "He didn't come to work today." The HR manager was startled, staring at her in confusion. President Lou, who are you talking about? Our company doesn't have any employee named George. How could there be no record? Willow's face instantly changed. He's been working in my company for 5 years. He's the son of a driver my father recommended. The manager flinched under her shout and hurriedly pulled up every employee file since the company's founding, from executives to interns, turning the records upside down. Finally, clutching a stack of documents, he shook his head nervously. President Lou, there really is no such person. 5 years ago, your father did recommend someone named George, but he declined the job offer on the spot. Willow's mind went blank. Fumbling, she pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling as she searched her contacts. She swiped back and forth several times, but the familiar name was nowhere to be found. She opened her photo album, scrolling frantically for anything related to him. The wedding photo she'd reluctantly taken, the secret snapshots he'd taken of her, back, all of it had vanished without a trace. As if George had never existed in her world at all. Willow went mad, using every connection she had to investigate. At last, a simple file was laid on her desk. George, son of the Lou family's former driver. 5 years ago, he declined the Lou Group's job offer. Later, he joined the Sue Group. 1 year ago, he married Honest Sue, president of Sue Group. Currently, he is the husband of the Sue Group's owner and father to a 1-year-old daughter. Anna, the woman who, back in university, had been like the sun, always shining warmly on George. The revelation struck Willow like a thunderbolt. She grabbed her car keys and ran out. She followed the address to the home where he now lived. When the door opened, I looked at the stunned, broken Willow outside. I was a little surprised, but more detached than anything. President Lou, I said calmly. What brings you here, President Lou? That title was like a blade stabbing deep into Willow's heart. George, her voice was hoarse, her eyes bloodshot. You don't remember me? I suddenly smiled, then turned my head toward the inside of the house and called, Honey, we have a guest. Anna came out of the kitchen wearing home clothes, flowers still on her hands. She walked over, naturally slipping an arm around my waist, then lovingly took our daughter into her arms with a tender smile at me. Only then did she look at Willow at the door, polite but distant. Ah, President Lou, such an unexpected visit. What can we do for you? Willow glared at Anna with eyes full of rage, as if she might pounce on her at any moment. I gently leaned my head on Anna's shoulder. By the way, isn't it time to change the baby's diaper? I think I smell something. From a nursery came the soft babbling of our baby. Anna laughed, kissed my forehead, and turned to carry our child inside. Willow staggered back a step. Looking at this dazzlingly harmonious scene before her, she finally broke down. She rushed forward, grabbing my arm, her voice hoarse and screaming, George, I'm your wife. We've been together for 5 years. We just got married. She waited for me to respond, but I only silently pulled my arm free and took a gold-embossed invitation from the entryway drawer, handing it to her. Next Sunday is my daughter's first birthday party. President Lou, you're welcome to come if you're free. Willow didn't take the invitation. She left, lost and broken. Chapter 6. In the days that followed, Willow seemed to lose her mind. She abandoned everything at the company, spending every day outside my home, desperately trying to use our past memories to awaken me, until Anna finally could no longer endure it. She threw our wedding photo in Willow's face and coldly warned, President Lou, please respect yourself. The marriage you speak of exists only in your imagination. If you continue harassing my husband, I'll call the police. Willow stared at the photo, at me, smiling calm and gentle, and Anna, looking blissfully happy. She wanted to take out our marriage certificate to prove her claim, but her pockets were empty. Yes, that marriage certificate from the other world had long since vanished along with the me from that world. When she returned home, she found the atmosphere strangely different. In the past, her father always praised Makoto, calling him refined and gentle, the only suitable son-in-law for the Liu family. But since that day, he never mentioned the Ito family's name again. Dad, how's Makoto doing lately? Why hasn't he come by? She asked tentatively. Father Liu reacted as though hearing something filthy. his brows furrowed, his face full of disgust. Why would you bring up that scheming man? If it weren't for the old friendship I had with his father, I never would have let him go so easily. That kind of man who'll use any dirty trick to climb higher. Dreaming of marrying into my Lou family? Impossible. Willow was completely stunned. In her memory, her father admired Makoto endlessly. How could his attitude now be so completely reversed? That night, she drank heavily and fell into a long, long dream, so vivid it felt real. In the dream, she returned to 5 years ago, to the company gathering that had changed everything. Because I had rejected the job offer, I hadn't been at the party. Makoto's target had shifted instead to another man, the department manager who also harbored feelings for Willow. Makoto used the same old tricks, plying the man with alcohol, planning to send him into Willow's room, stage a scene of catching them in bed, and use it as an excuse to discard Willow and fly off with the wealthy heiress he had just started pursuing, whose family background far outshone the Lius. But he miscalculated one thing. That manager came from a prominent family. He had grown up surrounded by schemes and intrigues, sharp and highly vigilant. Sensing Makoto's overzealous hospitality and ill intent, he pretended to be drunk. But once pushed into the room, he immediately sobered up, recorded Makoto and his accomplice's conversation on his phone, and called the police. With the police involved, the matter couldn't be hidden. There was witness and evidence alike. Makoto's plot to frame Willow, just so he could abandon her for a rich girl, spread like wildfire overnight, turning him into the biggest laughingstock in high society. The Ito family lost all face, and Makoto, branded as a manipulative social climber, was forced to leave the country in disgrace. As for Willow, the ordeal left her wary and disgusted with any man who tried to approach her. She came to believe that every man in the world only wanted her money and status, that they were all hypocritical and repulsive. But when the dust settled in the dream, she felt an inexplicable emptiness deep in her bones. Suddenly, she thought of the son of the driver, George, the boy who always quietly followed behind her, whose eyes were pure and shy and always held stars when they looked at her. It had been so very long since he last came to the Liu household. And in her dream, Willow, like a bystander, watched another version of her life unfold. She saw that after graduating from university, I never came to the Liu home again, as though deliberately drawing a line between us. I had resolutely refused the lucrative job offer Father Liu provided, instead choosing to join Anna's tiny startup company, back then just a handful of people, and began working from the very bottom as an assistant. Chapter 7. Anna, true to her name, as warm and bright as a piece of jade, had stood unwaveringly by my side since university. She knew my inferiority and sensitivity. She also knew of the silent, hidden love I buried deep in my heart. Anna never exposed it. Instead, she warmed my frozen heart little by little with her actions. She remembered my birthday. She cheered for every small progress I made. When I worked late, she quietly delivered hot meals to me. In a dream, Willow clearly saw the day Anna proposed to me. The sunlight was perfect. Anna looked up at me with sincere eyes. "George, let's forget all the things that once made you unhappy. From now on, let me be the one to love you. Let me be the one to protect you. Will you let me?" My eyes brimmed with tears, but I smiled and nodded heavily. Together, they started a business, fought side by side, and grew that tiny company into something strong and vast. They married, had children, and lived a life that was poetry. Willow woke from her dream with tears already streaming down her face. Two sets of memories, two different worlds, were colliding, tearing, and merging violently in her mind. And she finally understood everything I had said was true. She remembered that in the other world, when my mother was gravely ill, I had knelt before her and begged. But she had looked down at me with a cold face and said, "This is the retribution you deserve." She remembered that when my mother lay dying in her hospital bed, clinging to life, she chose to cut off the life-saving surgery fees and medical expenses, just because Makoto had suffered a trivial bout of food poisoning. Again and again, I had turned to her with my last shred of hope, powerless, trying to explain. And again, she stubbornly and contemptuously dismissed everything as my lies and schemes. She had personally destroyed the boy who loved her more than anyone else in the world, and indirectly caused the death of the kind, humble mother who only ever wanted her son to be happy. George, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The pain tearing through her chest nearly ripped Willow apart. She wished she could go back and strangle that stupid, cold-blooded, wretched version of herself. Overwhelming regret and sorrow crashed down on her like a drowning tide, submerging her completely. Willow curled up in bed like a lost child, releasing muffled sobs of anguish. She turned all her fury upon the Ito family. By then, the Ito family had already been weakened, their vitality drained by the infamous scandal years ago. They had barely survived with Liu family support, granted only for the sake of old ties. Willow's revenge was swift and absolute. She pulled every investment from the Ito family and united with other business partners to impose total commercial sanctions on them. Within a month, the Ito Group's capital chain collapsed, and they declared bankruptcy. In the business world, no one dared cross her. Makoto came to her in tears, begging her to show mercy for the sake of their past. Willow looked at his pitiful face and only felt sick. She remembered her mother, dead because of him in the other world. Her eyes went cold. Past feelings. She let out a chilling laugh, kicking his hand away. Between you and me, there's nothing left but hatred. Willow showed no mercy. She handed evidence of the Ito family's tax evasion to the authorities, sending Ito's father to prison. She reported Kento, presenting new evidence of his deliberate attack on her mother years ago. This time, he paid the price. He was sentenced to jail. Willow even tracked down the department manager Makoto had once tried to frame. Together, they exposed Makoto's schemes from 5 years ago, along with the chaotic scandals of his life abroad, blasting everything across the internet. Chapter 8. Makoto became infamous overnight, his name all over the internet, but only in disgrace. An avalanche of curses and ridicule crashed down on him. He was doxxed by netizens, evicted by his landlord, and spat on by passers-by. In the end, even his own desperate family cast him out, leaving him homeless in the streets. After doing all of this, Willow stood alone in her office, gazing out at the countless lights of the city, yet feeling no joy at all. Because she knew, no matter what she did, she could never win back the George who had once been filled with nothing but love for her. Nor could she bring back the innocent life that had been lost. Her world was already a wasteland beyond redemption. At a business banquet hosted by the Sioux Group, I saw Willow again. She had grown much thinner, the sparkle in her eyes gone, her entire being suffused with a lifeless despair. Holding a glass of wine, she walked straight through the crowd toward me. Ignoring Anna, who was intimately holding onto my arm, Willow's eyes glimmered with a desperate, almost mad plea. George, I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Let's start over, all right? Anna immediately stepped in front of me, her face icy, her tone brimming with hostility. President Liu, have you lost your memory? I warned you before. Stop harassing my husband. I gently patted Anna's arm, signaling her to be at ease. Then I looked at Willow calmly. Willow, I bore the weight of slander and gave you 5 years. But what about you? You let Makoto cause my mother's death and then forbade me from seeking revenge. On what grounds do you expect me to forgive you? For the last time, I'll tell you this. I'm very happy now with my wife. If you truly feel guilty, then stop disturbing my life. All the color drained from Willow's face, leaving her pale as paper. She staggered back, her eyes filled with inexpressible despair and pain. After that banquet, Willow never appeared before me again. I only occasionally heard news of her from others or felt her silent gaze from some hidden corner I could not see. Until one day, while I was shopping with my daughter, a car suddenly came barreling straight toward us. Behind the wheel, his face twisted with madness, was Makoto. It all happened too fast. I had no time to react, only to clutch my daughter tightly in my arms. But the crushing impact I braced for never came. At the last moment, A figure hurled itself forward, using every ounce of strength to push us aside. Bang! A deafening crash rang out as that figure was struck by the speeding car, flung violently into the air, and slammed onto the ground. It was Willow. Blood spread rapidly from beneath her body. I stood frozen in shock, my mind utterly blank. With great effort, she reached a trembling hand toward me, her lips moving as she used her final strength to whisper, "George, can you forgive me? In the next life, can we?" In her eyes flickered a fragile, faint light of hope. I stared at her, stunned. This was the last thing I had ever wanted to see. And though I was cold, I didn't want to lie to her. I shook my head, my voice soft as a passing breeze. "Willow, the George who loved you died 5 years ago. The man I am now only wishes that in every lifetime to come, we will never meet again." The light in Willow's eyes went out completely. The wail of the ambulance siren grew nearer, but it was already too late. The doctor handed me Willow's belongings, a blood-stained, yellowed, old photograph. And it was a moment in the university library, me secretly watching her, caught by her camera in an unguarded glance. The handwriting on the back had blurred, but faintly, the words "My George" could still be made out. Her assistant told me that Willow had left all of her assets to me, calling it her compensation. I accepted the immense inheritance and donated it all to charity. At her funeral, I sent a bouquet of white chrysanthemums in the name of a friend. The wind swept through the graveyard, scattering the last of the dust. From then on, mountains high and rivers long, all love and hate were laid to rest.